listening to the Ice Prep Podcast. Here's your hosts, Brian and Pat.
See, what's fun for me is Pat never knows when the camera's on him if he's doing weird stuff before the show starts. So he's like bouncing back and forth, and everybody got to see that. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Free Agency Day. Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy, especially like almost 2 hours-ish ago when the number one player finally moved. I've got the list up on screen for those watching. Pat was going through this throughout the day to kind of keep an eye on everything. We're obviously not going to talk about everybody because there's a lot.
So many.
But at the... I think your camera unsynced. That's really fun to see.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Your camera's unsynced, but that's fine. Anybody watching, I apologize.
Not that important.
Oh, wait. We're back to normal. Okay.
Oh, okay. There we go.
The internet magically fixes itself.
Woo.
So I guess I don't know where you want to start with this. We've got the giant list. There's so many that really don't matter, honestly. There's a lot that do. Looking at this list right away, the first big one of the day was for the Avalanche. Josh Manson is sticking around.
Nope.
No?
The first big one of free agency really was Evgeny Malkin.
Well, I'm talking about after, like, once noon hit.
Yeah.
Then, but yes, Malkin is staying with the Penguins, so the Penguins are going to have most likely, I think it's 21 years, as long as one of the players doesn't get traded with Crosby, Malkin, Letang. Those three, I wonder if that's going to be a, like, Sedin brothers / Lou, just like all of them into the Hall of Fame together at the same time. Letang is iffy Hall of Fame. Malkin and Crosby most likely will be, so at the very least. But yeah, Malkin's staying $6.1 million. His AAV, which I believe was the exact same as Letang's. So
I believe so, yeah.
Crosby gets it done.
Yeah, like Crosby was yelling at I don't know all the GM's names, but he was yelling at people.
Ron Hextall.
Hextall, I saw Hextall quite a bit. Yeah, so good for them, good for Gino. It would have been weird to see him in different colors, but boy, would have loved that. I would have loved to see him going up against a division rivalry out of spite. But yes, we will dive into the full what happened today because we are recording on a little bit of a different day. Normally we record on Thursdays, but we are recording on Wednesday because I am going on vacation and we wanted to squeeze this in before that started.
So
plus it's free agent day. Come on.
So we're gonna hammer through these ones quickly. As you heard me say, Manson staying in Colorado. Big acquisition at the trade deadline. 4 years, $4.5 million AV. Also re-signing Darren Helm, 1 year, $1.25 million. So that's two good players to keep back there. Devils did a trade or a third.
A third person as well with Arturi Lehkonen.
Yes.
He's also staying. That happened later on. It's a lower on our sheet, but even still, Josh Manson.
For those watching, I'm still scrolling. There it is.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know what's going on screen, so I'm just gonna make your job very difficult. But let's hammer through these because there's so many.
Yeah, we'll go with the list of what you made here because then people can follow along easier. Devils finally traded away Pavel Zacha. That one was rumored for a long time. Eric Haula comes back the other way from Boston. 1-for-1 trade there. Apparently it's a Devils specialty. So
with the Devils not having too much happening, unfortunately, on their team today at least, what are your thoughts on this then? Let's do a quick pause because I know we wanted to go through it quick, but what are your thoughts on the trade? How do you feel about getting Eric Haula?
For me, it was less kind of what comes back. As long as it was a serviceable player, Zach has been kind of it's going to be this year for like 6 years in a row. So change of scenery. We bring in a veteran player, which is something that the Devils honestly are lacking. One of the youngest teams, or actually it might be the youngest team in the league. So also brought in another veteran player, a trade later on in the day, which we are in Brendan Smith, which you can see on screen for 2 years. So that's good news for the Devils there. Obviously, they were all in on Gaudreau, apparently very all in on Gaudreau. That'll be one of the last ones on this list that we will get to.
Mhm.
I'm fine with it. Um, the Devils need scoring wingers badly more than anything else. So I just hope we don't have to really give up too much for it. Other than that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Then yeah, we'll jump from there. This one may not seem like a big one, but he had a breakout year of Olafson. He re-signed in Buffalo for 2 years for 4.75 million. Good for him. That's a good payday. He deserves that. Hopefully we see a resurgence. My dog is barking. I don't know why.
Buffalo,
Um,
by the way, for those keeping an eye on the Atlantic, I know that Ottawa has made some crazy moves and Detroit has made some crazy moves. Buffalo, to me, is still the team to watch. They were one of the better teams of the bunch in the back half of the season, and they only
mhm.
got better. So, uh,
Yeah, it'll
then
be interesting to see what they can do.
then obviously you're not allowed to talk to free agents before free agency hit. Jack Campbell signs a 5-year, $5 million deal like 10 seconds after the trade deadline or the free
At
agency opened.
12
So
noon and 2 seconds.
Campbell goes from Toronto to Edmonton in free agency. It was rumored for a long time. A lot of Leaf fans are upset about that, but long of the short, you weren't going to give that term up. Matthews is up in 2 years. Nylander is up in 2 years. You need to have the space to play. And honestly, you and I were talking about this, and I think I was even talking to my father-in-law about this. The tandem that they have is better than the one they had last year. So,
Yep, no, I agree. It's still marred with concerns with injuries.
oh, absolutely.
Obviously,
That's
Mrazek
any
is an injury machine.
that's
Murray
any
is also
goaltending tandem though, or like any league, any team in the league. It's like, well, if New York has Shesterkin get injured, they're not making the playoffs. Tampa Bay doesn't make the playoffs without Vasilevsky. I mean, the
yeah,
Leafs basically they made the playoffs. They were the fourth best team with the fifth worst goaltending. So it's
yeah.
not
So
like they you can't really downgrade from that unless you're getting Devils saving, which was the worst in the league. And funny enough, what's the next thing on this list, Pat? From Washington to Toronto, Samsonov joins the Leafs 1 year, 1.8 million. Kyle Dubas confirmed earlier today that he signed that as a show me deal. Samsonov, he's like, I want to go to the biggest stage and show everybody that I'm going to deserve more money next year. So that could be one of those good things for the Leafs there. I'll let you talk the next one because this one was fun to watch brew.
yeah, Giroux, good for him. I'm glad to see that he is going to be playing in his hometown. I know that that was something that was really important to him.
It's
A
where he
lot of hockey
lives in the
players
off
want.
season.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was pretty much like around the corner. It was like, hey, do you want me to come and sign this in person?
He literally showed up to the press conference with Pierre Dorian, which the GMs always do one, with his son. So that just goes to show how close he actually was. And that the top six of Ottawa, can't forget, who else did they get? They traded. They get Alex DeBrincat. Sorry, am I
Mhm.
cutting you off there, Pat?
Oh no, you just said, "Why don't you take this one?" And I
And
said
then
his name, and then you took over.
Sorry, I got distracted. I've got a baby monitor in front of me here, and it just switched screens, so I got a little distracted. Sorry about that one.
It's all good. No, Ottawa's gonna be really uh, very good this year. I don't think there's any other way to put it. The only hole that they have now that they need to figure out is they've got to figure out a little bit on defense. But they have solid goaltending. They had solid goaltending last season. You can fight me on that all you want, but they were just again marred with injuries. But they have a good amount of depth. Even the people from the AHL played better, in my opinion, than the ones that came up for New Jersey. So,
Oh yeah,
like, no
without
offense.
question.
So you've got a lot of good depth there. You obviously, we've talked about him quite a few times, a fantastic goalie coach now in Ottawa that's going to be helping grooming those people coming in. They also picked up Cam Talbot, which you can see on the list there. They picked him up in a trade, trading away Gustafsson, which I don't think was the best choice. I believe that Gustafsson's going to be a better goaltender in the long run. But even still, you're bringing in Talbot, who had a fantastic season last year. Like, it's one of the main reasons, in my opinion, that the Minnesota Wild did make it into the playoffs
Oh,
is because
absolutely.
of how well Cam Talbot played, but he didn't want to be a backup. He wanted to be a starter with Fleury and net in Minnesota. Obviously, he's going to be moved out, and they want to make sure that they've got a young kid that they can bring in when Fleury ages out after his 2-year contract. So there's a lot of important moving parts in that one. So yeah, it's good to see Ottawa back in the swing of things, because I didn't think they'd be there this year. So yeah, good for them. Smart moves.
Pierre Dorian swung for the fences and then some. So unfortunately, I think for Giroux, unless he re-signs again after, I don't think that new arena will be open in time by the time this contract ends, but you never know. Just looking at this list, the only real other one worth talking about slightly, Nick Leddy signing 4 years, $4 million in St. Louis, re-signs there, to which everybody went, why was he paid that much?
I will say there is one name collectively that does stand out to me, and that is Grice. As much as I don't like him as a person, Detroit's moves today were fantastic. You could tell that Yzerman was like, all right, here we go. We've shored up, we've cleaned up, we've done these things. It's time to bring in a lot of talent, and that's what he did. You'll see quite a few names that are going to pop up, but yeah, absolutely my 2 winners of free agency day one have been Ottawa and Detroit, which are 2 teams I never would have thought I was going to say won it. So,
well, you've got the GM in Detroit who did the exact same thing with Tampa Bay, and we've seen in the past when Dorian basically gets, when they just go have fun, he gets crazy stuff done, and he's been given, like, you do whatever you want, make this the best team possible. So we've scrolled down. Vinny Trocheck, leaving Carolina, decides to go to the Big Apple. He is in New York. To me, 7 years, $5.625 million AAV. Alongside that, Andrew Kopp goes from New York to Detroit. You talked about them getting a signing. 5 years, $5.625 million AAV. Kadri is going to get north of 9 without question because of those 2 players. And then, of course, a re-signing in St. Louis. Now, this one doesn't kick in until the 2023-2024 season. Robert Thomas, former London Knight, gets the 8-year, $8.125 million deal. That's one of those ones that the first year might be like, whew, okay.
It is.
And then the second you get to potentially like year 3, 4, and onward, it's one of those deals where it could be like Draisaitl, where you're like, wow, that is a steal and a half. And the way that Robert Thomas has played, the way that he passes, mind you, St. Louis made some bad moves. So
big time.
And then we'll add this one in on here because
I do want to say,
oh yes, sorry, go ahead.
With Robert Thomas, so you mentioned that his it may not be the best contract at the beginning. It is front loaded. I don't know if you saw what he's going to be making year
Is that
one.
One of those ones where it's like 10 or 12 first year?
It goes 9 million, 10.9 million, 10.5 million, then 8, 6, 6, 6, 6.
So it's the first few years you kind of, but that's you're hoping that it works out. He honestly is one of those players. He should be worth
He's been
way more than
season.
that contract. The only other one on this first page here, Pat, if you're following along, we can quickly touch on is Toronto deciding, why not bring in the guy who dented the Stanley Cup before it even made it off the ice, either as a good juju thing or a bad juju thing. Who knows?
The logic is stupid.
I sent you the thing, and we were both like, "Excuse me, what? Pardon?"
Yeah. So the logic that Dubas said is that with what's his name, Ilya Mikheyev being moving out. I'm assuming he's on the screen. I don't know, but he moved out to Vancouver. Oh, okay. Well, he moved out to Vancouver. Spoiler alert. But with Mikheyev moving, they needed to find a replacement. He said we wanted to replace him with a similar style with Abe Kubel, and that is wrong. Abe Kubel is not very fast. He's not slow, but Mikheyev has wheels. He is very, very fast. Mikheyev isn't the first person to go into the corner. Generally, that was anybody else on his line. He would receive the puck from the person that went into the corner. he would be close to it, but he wouldn't be in there. Abe Kubel is the person that will like get in your face and would probably headbutt every single person if he was allowed to. Like, he is gritty, he is grindy. It's a good scoop, I think. He's a little annoying to keep in the cage of what he needs to do. He tries to do everything, but he's only good at like 4 things, and he tries to be good at like 12. So it'll be interesting to see the way that Toronto uses him, but I think it's a good scoop, but he's not a replacement for Mikheyev. That's the dumbest comment that I think I've heard Dubas say.
Yeah,
personally.
and that was the
off.
words from Sheldon Keefe saying to Dubas as to why he liked them. So there's that to it. You never know. I mean, Mikheyev had his best season. Other than that, he was like a 6 or 8 goal scorer. So who knows? Maybe it does kind of average out. We'll go to the second page here now, just so Pat can follow along. So the final one that we'll get to that. Chicago out of nowhere being like, you know what? Here's how you tank. You sign Andreas Athanasiou and Max Domi to a 1-year, $3 million contract each for some. The only reason why, to me, that logically makes sense is they're signing them to try and hope that they look good enough to get assets back at the trade deadline. That's like the Arizona specialty and the Seattle specialty now, honestly.
What I'm thinking that they did is they had to hit the floor.
Or
so they have to make
needed bodies, right?
Yeah, they have to hit the cap space floor, and they've been trading away all their big name cap hits. So they're probably flirting with it. Say somebody gets injured, and they have to call up an AHLer, say like Taves or Kane gets injured. It's like, oh, we're below the cap floor. What do we do?
Well,
so they probably brought in some higher valued contracts for that reason.
Especially if the rumors about Kane wanting to potentially be out are true, then they're going to have to do something like that.
Yep.
Yaroslav Halak deciding, you know what, I'm going to go be the backup for Igor Shesterkin for $1.55 million. Good for him.
Cushy gig.
Oli Mata coming back this way. Of course, 2-time Cup winner with Pittsburgh, was a former London Knight. Yeah, two cups, right? Yeah, he was on both.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he was on both of those. He is in Detroit with a 1-year, $2.25 million. That feels very Yzerman, like, come here, show us what you got. We'll either turn you into something else or we'll give you a chance, something in the future. I don't care about Troy Stretcher, honestly.
Who does? I don't even think Troy Stetcher does.
I'll actually let you talk about this one that I say, Pat. Go ahead. Brent Burns.
Brent Burns, long time, only one team, San Jose. Or no, never mind. I'm a liar.
He was drafted by Minnesota as a forward.
Yeah. Right. Anyways, ignore anything that I say. But Brent Burns, longtime San Jose Shark, we can say that at least, is no longer going to be wearing that teal. He is swapping it out for red or black, or I guess green and gray if they go to the Hartford Whalers, and he is in Carolina. That one really felt like an odd move. They didn't retain a lot of his contract, which I thought was one of the major reasons. Like, that's what San Jose wanted to do.
34%, I
34%. Yeah, I was expecting a 50% retention as the important part for his $8 million salary, but they didn't do that. But instead, so it's roughly, I think it's close to like 5.5-ish is what Carolina is going to be dinged with his contract. And they traded back a couple prospects and some picks here and there. Nothing really of note as of yet. But yeah, that'll be interesting because they got rid of Tony DeAngelo and replaced him with Brent Burns. And I think when you compare the two, Burns is the better defenseman. He's got the better shot as well, and he's not a dick.
Yeah.
So and he's got zebras. Like, the man has zebras on his weird personal farm in Texas. What?
I honestly think that is, if they keep the storm surge going, he is going to immediately become the crowd favorite with that, without question. I think that, like, Carolina, you want to talk Detroit and Ottawa had a day. Carolina also had a day because they were literally just gifted something. We'll get to that.
Yeah, they won a different type of lottery.
Former Leafs defenseman who good for him with this contract. Lyubushkin signs in Buffalo, 2 years, 2.75. Buffalo's defensive core, they're going to have 2 first overall picks, plus Lyubushkin, and there's somebody else there too. Like
Lyubushkin is so underrated as a defenseman. He has no talents up front, but he is just like, you are not allowed in my zone. I will make sure you cannot do this. And if you do get into the zone, I will hit you hard. He's such a shutdown defenseman. He is such a good defenseman. So seeing 2.75, I honestly feel like if he has a chance to prove himself in Buffalo, if Buffalo really starts to climb up, he could be, after this 2-year contract, he could be asking for or even the 6 million. I know that he's not getting much younger, but like he's honestly so good defensively. He's sneaky good.
Do you know what Buffalo's going to do? They are going to glue him to Power like crazy. Power, that he's more of an offensive guy. Give him that stay-at-home guy who's going to beat the crap out of anybody who comes near him. That is how you protect. He's probably also going to help protect Dahlin as well. So, I mean, that one's beautiful for Buffalo. And then what do? They steal the backup out of Winnipeg, Eric Comrie.
Love it.
2 years, $1.8 million. So he gets to train underneath Craig Anderson for at least 1 year. Don't sleep on Buffalo. Honestly, ever since they finally have Alex Tuch, who wants to play there. He looked good.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Skinner's got it going again, so good on them. We can skip Colin White because he got bought out. Good for him for getting another contract down in Florida. You teased this one, so I'll let you go to it.
Ilya Mikheyev is in Vancouver now. 4 years, $4.75 million. I can fully understand why Dubas did not want to keep that. I sincerely believe that's an overpayment. If anything, he still needs to be getting prove-it contracts. He was out for a majority of a season with an awful injury. Like, you can't fault him for that. Obviously, he came back, and there was a lot of rehab that needed to happen. So he wasn't at 100% when he came back. So you can't fault him for that season. I get it. But at the same time, as a general manager, one season's not a deep enough pool, in my opinion. I would be like, you need to prove yourself further than the fact that you can skate really fast and you can do the same move on a breakaway. You can fake it and then go to your backhand. That's pretty much what he does. So I think Vancouver overpaid by $2 million personally. I would have, if he made, like, to me, he should be making no more than 2.5 million, because I don't think that he's at that tier yet. He doesn't do anything great.
Stretch it to 3 if you really need it. But if I have the choice between Ilya Mikheyev or JT Miller, I'm keeping JT Miller. And it seems like he's really on the outs. So, yeah, that to me is a weird one. Nemesnikov, I cannot say his name, goes from Dallas to Tampa. Yeah, Tampa, they he
just does this.
we'll get there, because there's one quickly to talk about first, and that is Frank Vetrano going from New York to Anaheim. I guess that is part of why they dropped Sam Steele, or they didn't give him the qualifying offer. I'm surprised Sam Steele wasn't picked up by anybody.
He's a good forward.
There's got to be something that we just don't see that the teams do. So maybe there's something else going on. Who knows? Maybe he's that mysterious kid who was addicted to video games and everything happened and everybody thought it was Patrick Laine. Well, we know part of it was Patrick Laine, but Frank Vetrano, 3 years, $3.65 million. They don't have Sonny Milano anymore, so who knows? Maybe that'll be the one that has all the fun with Trevor Zegras.
They got to get somebody fun for him. Toronto, just in case we got Toronto fans, I'm assuming we have Toronto fans listening. Adam Gaudette, that's just a no-risk play. He's going to float around AHL. You call him up if someone gets injured. That fourth-line center to replace what's-his-face, Spezza. There's a lot of options with him, but it's real low risk. That's a good, smart move there. Kulak resigns in Edmonton for 4 years, actually. So
I
good
think
for
that was a
him.
good deal. 4 years, $2.75 million. It's just one of those cheap for 4 years at the back end, considering Edmonton
This is the
overpaid
one.
Nurse.
This is the one that Dallas absolutely won with.
Oh
They
yeah.
did like one move, and it was picking up Mason Marchment from Florida. They let him go like an idiot.
Oh,
Like, I know that they didn't have cap space, and I get that, but like I would have prioritized him over some of the people that they probably saved. But yeah, Mason Marchment, he is now in Dallas for 4 years at 4.5 million. That is such a gross underpayment. He could easily, like, he could have probably asked for 6 and probably got 5.5. And in 2 years, this 4.5 is going to look like beyond a steal, a Sam steal. Like, it's just
Um, just because we were talking about Anaheim, can I break something that just happened?
absolutely.
Ryan Strome signs 5-year contract in Anaheim, so there's another. So suddenly Anaheim, after getting rid of Sonny Milano, after getting rid of Sam Steele, there it's coming in. So this one, literally, I'm refreshing Chris Johnson on that one. No AAV yet. So when that comes, hopefully by the end of us recording it. So Anaheim, some fun there.
Maybe they get the other Strom too.
I mean, why not?
Why not? They have the space.
I mean, Florida, well, we'll get to that one. Not Florida, but the other team in Florida, Tampa Bay, deciding to give out 3 8-year contracts. What was it, 179 million combined or something like that? In the
Something
span
stupid like
of
that, yeah.
the worst one to me is Mikhail Sergachev, 8 years, 8.5 million. He plays on their third pair. He shouldn't have got more than Hedman. Now, Hedman is grossly underpaid for what he does, but he gets
Inflation.
that. Yes. I mean, Tampa Bay is definitely banking on the cap jumping above 90 million plus next year. They give Cirelli 8 years, 6.25 million, and they give Cernak 8 years, 0.52 million. That one, to me, Cernak is the one that I'm looking at going, that's the good deal. If I'm being honest, looking at it from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, he has all those underlying stats that all the stats nerds love. Like, he may not be the top goal scorer, he may not get all the points, but he will do all the little things, and that's really what you want from depth players. And yeah, 5.2, I think that's a good price. I think he could have asked for more on the open market and got it. Next year, that is, obviously, but yeah, I think that's a fair price for what he does, so long as he can keep that up. Yeah, otherwise 8 years of that, that's the part that gets me. 4 years of that, okay, but 8 years doubling it, oof,
yeah,
that's risky.
I can't believe that Tampa Bay decided to go that route. Like that one's a weird one for me. And then obviously, of course, Palat will not be back. Another one of their big guys already signing somewhere else, so we will get to that. We knew that Darcy Kemper wasn't going to stick around in Colorado the second that Georgiev was moved to Colorado, and he goes to where the non-tampering rumors were saying he was going to go. It just took a lot longer than everybody expected.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they were trying to negotiate him down a little bit. Like, maybe he was sitting at 5.75 and they were going, well, what about 5? So yeah, he's in Washington for the next 5 years, as per his contract, for 5.25 million. Good for him. He deserves a payday. He has proven year in and year out that he is a good goaltender. Argue with me all you want about how he played in the playoffs. He was playing with one friggin' eye,
Yeah.
so take that into account. And pads and stuff that were breaking on him at the start of the season. Like, he was, and an injury. Remember, things just kept falling off him in games. Like,
yeah.
he had a bad stretch
and
right
then
at the
didn't
beginning.
They fire one of their equipment managers?
Yeah.
So there's something odd happening there, and then hey, he goes and wins the cup. So
Exactly. So, and then Washington also signed another goalie of Lindgren. Now, Lindgren's an interesting one, and I think this is a brilliant pickup by them. Lindgren is probably one of my favorite up and coming goaltenders that's in the league. He hasn't played a lot of games. He was on Montreal for a little bit, and I watched a few of the Laval Rocket games, and he looked pretty good. And then he was moved to St. Louis with the Jake Allen trade. And he played only 5 games for St. Louis, but he put up something like a 950. He looked really, really good. He looks really comfortable in net, but they never were able to give him a shot in St. Louis because they had Binnington and they had Ville Husso. So obviously they're not going to qualify Lindgren when, they get rid of Ville Husso. So the funny thing is he's only making $1.1 million for the next 3 years. Steal of a deal. So if you look at the price of Kemper and Lindgren, you're looking at about 6.35 million for that tandem. And then if you want, I'm just stirring up stuff now. If you want to look at Murray and Samsonov, you're looking at close to about 6.4.
it's 6.66.
Yeah, or no, I think Mikey Stevens adjusted it and he went
Okay.
down to like 6.4, 6.5-ish area. So
the
almost the same amount.
the one thing though is the difference of 3 years total for Toronto, 8 years
Yeah.
total for Washington. So that's, mind you, Lindgren, that deal could end up proving to be a complete game changer. But I guess Toronto kind of knew what they wanted. Who knows? Yeah, that's like Toronto has a hard
But
deadline for not being able to pay goalies because of their contracts.
which tandem? Which tandem do you choose? Right?
I
Isn't that a
think
tough one?
it is. I think because of, I said it when we were talking about it before, I think because of the Matthews Nylander contracts, they would have liked, that was probably their preferred, but because they're going to need every cent possible, that's the way they have to go. Just to confirm, Ryan Strome, Anaheim, 5 years, $5 million. AAV.
That's a good price for him.
So,
That's pretty fair.
yeah.
But I will say that out of that tandem, out of those two teams, or the two tandems that I just mentioned, I would actually choose Murray and Samsonov over Kemper and Lindgren. As much as I really like Kemper as a goaltender and I really like Lindgren as a up and comer, there's just something about the mid, and that's what I see Murray and Samsonov. They're about the same, but they're equal in their similarities of where they're going to sit, and I like that consistency versus who knows and who knows. So,
Well, not only
yeah.
that, in front of both of those goalies, there's going to be a better team. Like the Leafs just arguably have a much better team.
Oh, totally. But
In
we'll
front.
keep going.
Leafs. Didn't the Leafs get Colin Blackwell from Chicago, by the way?
No, they got him from Seattle with the Giordano trade.
Oh, right. It was somebody else that moved over. So Blackwell signs 2 years, $1.2 million in Chicago. I don't know why they didn't give him 1 year by $3 million. Who knows on that one? Looking down. This one we were happy to see because Philadelphia buys out Lindblom, and then San
Oscar
Jose
Lindblom.
gives him $2.5 million 1 year. That's definitely a show me deal. Good to see on that one.
They also, just so you know, Philly donated $100,000 to a local charity in Lindblom's name, which is like, what a performative act of, like, it's great that you did the donation, fine, whatever. Like, that's nice that money went there, but like, that's just all for media. Like, no.
Oh yeah,
That's
we just spent millions upon millions buying you out. Here's $100,000. No, if you're gonna do something like that, match dollar for dollar what it cost you to buy him out, or don't do anything at all. Honestly.
yeah.
Next one's all you because you guys re-signed somebody for 5 years.
Yeah, Lehkonen. Arturi Lehkonen is coming back for 5 years, which is wonderful to see. So you were going to see Nichushkin and Lehkonen just terrorizing teams for the next few years, which will be kind of nice. Yeah, they've Colorado's really kind of firmed up that team. Like they've realized that the core isn't just McKinnon, Makar, Landeskog, and Rantanen. It's the supplementary players as well of Nichushkin and Lehkonen. Like those are such, I didn't think they were going to be so important, but holy crap. When one of them is out, you can tell. And
Yeah.
people were saying that about Burakovsky, and they are wrong because when he was out, you couldn't tell. I could barely see him on the ice in the playoffs personally, but
Well, I
that was just
mean,
me.
nobody
And I've
really
always
saw him
had a
in the
bias
Stanley Cup
against him.
Finals, right? So
True. Yeah. But yes, so Lehkonen is back. And then Philly is just, they said they're doing a speed run of how quickly they can kill their team by bringing back Justin Braun because they didn't have enough of his terrible play, and bringing in Delorier, who's one of the worst players. I'm glad he's no longer in my division. I can say that at least. But wow, what a bad move. And then not only was it a bad move, but they signed Delorier for 4 years.
1.75 million, and then
What a waste of money.
Chuck Fletcher in his presser with the media goes, "We just didn't have the money to make it work with Johnny Gaudreau." Well, no wonder. Look what you did, bud.
Awful. Oh, my hair looks like Jimmy Neutron there. No, awful, 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 awful. Just, I mean, there's worst payouts, yes, but I think to me this was the worst decision, the two of them.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a worse deal that we will get
worst
to.
deal, but those are the.
We're so close to it.
Oh,
Oh, actually, I just noticed you had a spelling mistake on that one too, so we're gonna fix that. Probably a very good deal was David Perron finally not signing in St. Louis. Every single one of his contracts, he always signed in St. Louis and then went somewhere else, then went back to St. Louis. 2 years, $4.75 million to Detroit. So yeah, Yzerman, there's something that he saw that was like, I'm pushing towards it. I think having those two rookies last year step it up might have shifted up his plan by a few years, honestly.
So how about this then? Who would you prefer for okay, well, he's 2 years, the other one's 4, but for the same price tag of 4.75 million. David Perron, Ilya Mikheyev.
That's not even a question, Pat. Like,
Exactly.
that just goes to show how, like, Yzerman. Now there is one that we are a few trades away from here that is questionable, but maybe there's something there because I mean, Florida tried to. We'll get to that. Jan Ruda, he has to leave. Tampa
One
Bay.
of the most underrated defensemen in the league. Everyone should have been fighting for him. Only Pittsburgh was. I'm so mad. He should have been on everyone's list. Ugh.
Pittsburgh gets Jan Ruda 3 years, $2.75 million. Now, the only thing that goes against Ruda, and it's what I've seen from a lot of people, he is very underrated, but he does need somebody who is like superstar caliber near him because he is so good for them. So it's the matter of, is he going to be beside Letang? Is Letang still good enough for that? Yeah, it's like that is a good deal for Pittsburgh. This one was everybody still kind of wondering why Detroit is deciding to pay Ben Sherratt $4.75 million over 4 years. He's not going to be top pairing. That's what Florida brought him in for, and he was not that.
No.
If he's second line, he might be good. I think that's more of the mentorship role, more of just like kind of protect the kids for us, bud, and here's some extra money on the side. So that's the only one a lot of people, including myself, are like, what are you doing, Yzerman? Because everything else is always like, okay, how did you get away? He can't keep getting away with this.
I think it might have just been pulling in a couple names as well. That's the thing. Like, because it's great to have a team of these, like, oh, wow, how'd you snag that? But if you don't have somebody that, like, Montreal people know him,
you do need
Florida
veterans
know him,
on your
like,
team.
Yeah. So I don't hate it. It's kind of like okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. The other thing too, a lot of entry level contract offers today. You can see the Slavkovsky is on here. Shane Wright got an entry level contract. Urasek for Columbus got it. So a bunch of them got that. So good for them. We don't have to dive into that because I think everybody was kind of assuming that was going to happen anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Although one that was odd was the 4th-round pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs goaltender getting a contract. That was earlier on in the day. I can't remember his name, but yeah,
Oh yeah, it must mean that
he was the first.
because well, I'll spoil ahead. Hutchison is gone now. He
Yeah.
signed Vegas, right?
So,
Yeah, Vegas.
yep.
So it that might be they need somebody for ECHL or AHL, so just bring him in now, try and get him going.
Yep.
Mr. Invisible in the Stanley Cup Final, Andre Burakovsky goes to Seattle in free agency. Oh, this is up there as to me one of the worst overpayments of the day. 5 years, okay, $5.5 million. Did they not learn their lesson taking Donskoy from Colorado? That you take him out of Colorado and he's not that good of a player. Like, that's gonna. I don't like that one.
No, Burakovsky is as good as the people that he is around. That is probably the best way to describe him. I don't think he's a bad player by any sense of the word, but he's not worth more than Perron. I may not like Perron in the way that he plays his game, but Perron's the better player by a lot. So that's going to be one that good for Burakovsky. He got a big payday, and he will never play up to it.
No, ever. The coaching style that Seattle has doesn't lend to it as well. Looking at the rest of what I have on here, 2 stalls signing in Florida, one on a PTO, one for an actual contract. Winnipeg somehow decides that an upgrade in their backup is getting rid of Eric Comrie and bringing in big save Dave. Whoops. I guess there's
Winnipeg
another.
is also speed running for Bedard too. So
no kidding. Colorado keeps their 3rd string goaltender around for 1 year again, right? No,
fourth. He's a 4th
string.
string now. Yeah. So you've got
right.
Francouz, you've got Georgiev, then you have Justus Anunin, and even Hunter Miska. All of them I would actually probably put in front of JJ, Jonas Johansson, but good for him.
I mean, they got assets really for him and then bring him back for free. So
no, they didn't get any assets for him. He got cleaned off waivers.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yep. And then they waived him, so they're like, okay, fine.
So I've just for your sake, I skipped the rest. Nobody cares about Greg McKegg except for memes from Simpsons. Okay,
but also Kubalik is on Detroit. That's a good scoop as well. He's the worst for any sort of underlying metrics if you look at Jay Fresh's numbers, but even still, that's a good scoop by Detroit.
It is.
Then from there, a whole lot of nothing for a while. Like I said to Brian, when there was the lull, I was like, okay, so all the GMs went for a smoke break, and they let the AGM sit in. And it's just like, just go have fun, play in the sandbox. You have this much money to spend. Go to the store, and you're allowed.
Yeah, like looking at all of this, it's like Leagueman, Toronto signing Malgin, bringing him back apparently. And then, out of nowhere, which one am I looking for? Oh, Dallas signs Colin Miller for 2 years. He was in Buffalo free agency. So this tells you how
Nico
far
Sturm,
down.
Nico Sturm is no longer on the Avs, unfortunately. So the tweet that I saved saying that Tyson Jost was going to be a bigger impact in Minnesota than Sturm was in the Avalanche. I guess it does age well because I had a feeling that would age poorly. And you know what? One of them has a cup and one of them doesn't. So,
and then after that, out of nowhere, it gets leaked out that Max Pacioretty is being traded to Carolina for future considerations. Now, for those of you who are new to the NHL, and for those of you who may not be, future considerations in probably 99 times out of 100 means that what the team traded away was nothing. They don't exist. Maybe the odd time it's like, here's a 7th round pick that we got out of nowhere. or here's a random contract because you need a contract player. The Carolina Hurricanes received the top scorer from the Vegas Golden Knights for free. They lost Vinny Trocheck to free agency and brought in Max Pacioretty for free. What? Vegas in back-to-back years got rid of their number one goaltender for free. Then got rid of their number one goal scorer the next year.
Vegas isn't a team.
Why couldn't New Jersey take advantage of that? Oh, I know, because we were tied up trying to get Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, pretty much. I have a feeling what happened was that Carolina happened to call. Like, that's it. That's the only thing that, maybe like Brindamore was just like texting his buddy in Vegas. He was like, you should probably maybe tell the GM to call Vegas.
They need
like,
to make some space here if they want to keep that top line together. Oh, they traded one of the players from the top line away. There was also another player that Vegas sent over. I don't know who Coughlin is, so
Coughlin,
sorry. So that one was kind of, yes, shows how much I know. So Vegas, I'm going to try and do this by memory. So Vegas to get Max Pacioretty, it was Nick Suzuki, it was a second-round pick, and it was somebody else to Montreal.
Oh, the one that isn't
Tatar,
on your team?
Sorry, and Tatar. Vegas to get Tatar, was it not a first, a second, and a third?
Something
so it was
like that.
So Nick Suzuki, 2 seconds, a first, Thomas Tatar, and a third for nothing to Carolina. Vegas has literally, when this, there is a giant explosion happening behind them right now, and it is catching up to them. Because they're not going to have any prospects, anybody coming up through the system. They're literally going to have to basically be like, okay, we're going to have to overpay at every deadline and just give people away and hope that nobody notices that we don't have any players that have been here for more than 2 years. It's the explosion coming behind Vegas being like, we've got to stay ahead of being irrelevant.
This is a prime example of two completely different new teams coming in and doing different things. And I can promise you, Seattle is going to be far more successful than Vegas will be because of this. Vegas was like, we're going to come in and we are going to win. And they got close. And kudos for them for getting so close.
Because they got so close, I think that completely destroyed their, honestly, next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, it could ruin the franchise. It could cause the franchise to leave. I don't think it'll ever leave Vegas because there's just too much money there. But say it wasn't Vegas. Say it was, I don't know. I'm just going to choose a random city, Arizona. Say it was Arizona.
Well, Gary Bettman loves Arizona, so you have to pick somewhere else. Pick a random Canadian team. Pick Winnipeg. Pick Calgary.
Say it was like Hamilton, for instance, and they come in hot, and then 15 years later, the only time they've even sniffed the chance of a cup was in their first 3 seasons. That team is gone.
Yeah, it's Vegas. They're who knows? Maybe they can constantly every single year just keep signing players in and not worry too much about assets. They could honestly be like every single year. It's like, okay, here's the top 3 free agents, and they've all gone to Vegas, and then Vegas will trade them away and try and do something. Who knows? It's a complete. It's much more of a NBA style approach, and who knows? Maybe it will work. Because NBA teams will literally just give up everything for one player, and then just try and sign everybody in free agency. Who knows? Maybe that approach, they're trying something. Maybe it does work. When Tom Dundon bought the Carolina Hurricanes, every single person was like, their style of trying to do paying less on everything will not work. And Carolina has become one of the fan favorites, one of the favorites in the NHL. Now that TDA isn't there, a lot more people are going to jump back on being fans of the Hurricanes.
TDA and Domi.
Well, TDA was the racist one, so there's that part of it. But so who knows? Maybe it's beginning of a new style. And honestly, it is fun to see the stupidity that Vegas causes.
Oh, yeah, and it's great.
I love it.
It's great that seeing them after so many like arrogant years of success and rubbing it in Avalanche faces, and then it's just like, uh-oh, you guys screwed yourself. It's just, it feels good. It sustains me. We're gonna keep moving though. Connor Brown, I think this one's an important one to talk about. He was traded from Ottawa to Washington. It says here second round pick. I was cleaning my house. I didn't see
Yeah,
what he
second
went
round
for.
2024. That's what it is.
I mean, that's a pretty cheap price for somebody that's actually pretty damn talented. Connor Brown on Washington. I think Washington's going to be a little bit better than I expected them to be this year.
They don't have
But
Backstrom. That's, to me, that's the biggest. And we saw it at the beginning of the year with Ovi when he didn't have Backstrom around, is that he can still play, but he won't catch Gretzky without Backstrom. That's the
no,
thing. What
they need to
Backstrom
find
does,
somebody that can replicate what he does. And that's about
and
it.
unfortunately, those players are very, very, very expensive typically.
Yeah.
From there, we learned that Johnny Gaudreau was going to go to free agency. That Calgary was going to offer him 10 or 8 years by what was it, $10.5 million. All day it's either going to be New Jersey or the Islanders. Flyers were out on it early.
Because he wants to play close to home, and that's an important part. He wanted to move back home, and he wanted to play close to home. Calgary was way too far away.
Home is New Jersey for those not in the know. And then out of nowhere, at about 4:30ish or so, tweet comes out that Columbus might be on the mix of Johnny Gaudreau out of nowhere. And then silence for a while, and then 7 o'clock, Elliot Friedman tweets out Gaudreau to Columbus, to which the internet went, what? So Devils, of their one thing that they needed more than anything was a top 6, like top 3 winger, and they were going all in. Apparently the offer, the rumored one earlier in the day was 7 years north of $10 million. Came out that they offered him 7 by 9, I think was the highest. So everybody wondering, why did Gaudreau go to Columbus? It was the highest offer that he got in the Metro. 7 years, $9.8 million. He is a Columbus Blue Jacket, which leaves Columbus in an interesting spot because Patrick Laine is an RFA. So he still has to be signed, and for him to do that, they have to ship somebody else out. I would love if somehow New Jersey gets Patrick Laine. That's one of those ones where, you know what, give up some assets to try and do it.
But he wants to play in Columbus, and I think one of the reasons that people are now starting to realize that Columbus is an okay place to play is because it's out of the spotlight.
Tortorella's
these
not
are
there.
Well, there's that too. But like these are star players that have the personality of non-star players. I mean, Patrick Laine will dress like he is, but he's out of the camera. He doesn't like to be on camera. He likes to have
New
his photo
Jersey
taken of a
too.
suit, but
Like, you can be a
yes, but
star in
no.
New Jersey. Like, what is
New Jersey has a bit of a bigger market and much more voracious fans in comparison to Columbus. Like Columbus is quiet. You don't. How often do we talk about Columbus? How often do other podcasts talk about Columbus that aren't Columbus podcasts? Like you look at the Steve Dangle one, they talked about Merzlikins and that's about it.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
don't really talk about anything else to do with Columbus. It's such a cushy place for people to just play and not have to worry about being in the spotlight. Is he going to win a cup there? Absolutely not. It's a terrible choice if that's what you want to do.
And he left something like $15 to $20 million on the table to leave Calgary. So he wanted out of Calgary. Sorry, Flames fans.
To recap, then,
yes, go ahead.
Johnny Gaudreau said he wanted to make his way home. He didn't do that.
He went to
Johnny
Ohio.
Gaudreau wanted to make the most money that he could. He didn't do that. He wanted to go to a contending team. He didn't do that. Those were his 3 reasons for leaving Calgary. So to me, that sounds like a big old FU to Calgary.
Which then makes a lot of people now go, what does Calgary do with Matthew Tkachuk? Because he's RFA right now as well. If they qualify him, that's $9 million that they owe him. That's 1 year. And I believe that brings him right to UFA. So that's worst case scenario for Calgary. So that one is less fun there. And it seems like the obvious avenue for Laine to stay is Voracek plus leaving. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with Columbus. I don't know what the Devils are going to do now, honestly. They need a top winger. We have some in like that are coming up, but that won't be till 2024, 2025. So that's why a lot of people thought that Slavkovsky was going to be the like answer, and then he went to Montreal. So
Yeah, no. We'll rip through this quickly because there's only a small amount left. Riley Smith re-signing in Vegas after they dumped Pacioretty's contract. 3 years, $5 million. That's a solid price for him. Martin Jones somehow is still getting jobs, but he's off to Seattle because they have the infinity gauntlet of goalies in Seattle. So he is going to be playing there. Nikita Zadorov, always have a soft spot for him for some reason. I have no idea why. 2 years more in Calgary, $3.75 million. Good for him. That's a good price for him. And then this is the one that was really surprising to me that there was less people interested, and the price that he was signed for was Hayden Fleury, kind of an underrated defenseman, has never really been given a really solid chance to shine. He was on Seattle, and they scratched him a bunch. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing things, obviously, because I don't watch those teams. But yeah, Hayden Fleury is going to be on the Lightning, which I think will be a really solid fit and a really good opportunity for him to show that he actually is a very talented defenseman. And that is 2 years. It's 750,000. So it's a cheap one. It's a league min.
Yeah,
but
that to me screams of like a reclamation project for Tampa.
Yeah,
like we spent all of our money. So hopefully there's something found here with this, but that's all the insanity. I just refreshed again, nothing new. So, of course, obviously we had the fun one as this was all going on. Strome to Anaheim, 5 years, $5 million. We went a little longer than we wanted. That's okay. Both my kiddos are still asleep, so that's kind of why I wasn't worried about that. Crazy free agency. There's still obviously John Klingberg is rumored to now be going back to Dallas, which would be interesting. Of course, Nazem Kadri, we didn't even talk about Naz. He didn't sign anywhere. You and I were messaging back and forth about this before, and I think I was talking to my brother-in-law about it, saying, well, what about Kadri to the Devils? The only thing with that is he is a natural center.
Yes.
The Devils
he's really good at faceoffs.
The Devils do not need a center. And you want Jack Hughes getting as much center time as possible. You want him getting better at faceoffs. You're not taking Nico Hischier off of the second-line center basically ever. He's going to become a Selke candidate year in, year out. And you're not putting Nazem Kadri, who's going to make near Johnny Gaudreau money, on your third line. So he's not going wing either because he's going to want to be somewhere where he can potentially be first-line center. At this point, I don't know where he goes unless he is unless that's a target for Calgary. I was messaging my neighbor earlier today, and I know that he axed the trade when that's how he ended up in Colorado, but maybe he changes his mind, or maybe like if Tkachuk doesn't sign there, he's no way he goes there.
Yeah. So then I have a question. So, like, regardless of what your team needs, you said that Kadri is going to be making Gaudreau money.
Near Gaudreau, he's making above 9. I think he gets $9 million.
Who do you think is
$9 million for 5 years? I think is what it's going to be
between Johnny Hockey and Naz. Who do you think is the better player, and who would you want on your team?
Gaudreau is the better player. I would want Nazem Kadri.
Gaudreau is not the better player. I will fight any person that wants to say $9 million is $2 million too much. He is as good as William Nylander. That is the way that I look at it. I don't think there's anything special about Johnny Gaudreau, and I sincerely believe that this coming year is going to prove that. He is going to be wonderfully mediocre because that is the style of hockey that he is really good at doing. He can get passes really well, and then he can put them in the net when he gets on a rush. That's what he does, and that's all he does. You watch any of his goals, and I want to tell you 70 to 80% of them are off a rush. So he is good at creating a rush, but that's it. Also, rushes are only not made by one person. They're made by the team. So that is Calgary working as a team to get him the puck on the rush so he can go in and score. I sincerely believe that Nazem Kadri is the better player. I believe that David Perron is a better player than Johnny Gaudreau because there's so many other underlying things that he can bring to the game. Johnny Gaudreau can bring that he can shoot a puck okay sometimes.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. I was just looking through at the Columbus lines because I was like, okay, I want to see like who could he potentially be playing with. We completely forgot to talk about the absolute worst contract of the day, and that is Eric Goodbranson. Yeah, you heard right. From Calgary, so he's joining his buddy. Well, I guess technically Johnny Gaudreau is joining him. 4 years for Eric Goodbranson as a free agent in Columbus for $3 million more than he deserves. 4 years, $4 million. That is so not good. That one is going to get bought out so fast. Like,
he's not even.
You know what the worst part is for Columbus? That was bad. Then they get all happy. They're like, oh my God, we've got Johnny Gaudreau. And if they don't have that $4 million AAV contract of Goodbranson for 4 years, they don't have to crunch and get rid of somebody else who's better on their team. That's my only saving grace.
They could have gotten Justin Braun.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding you. That is a 1-to-1 equivalent in my mind. They will play very similar hockey. Justin Braun, I think I saw it was 1.1 roughly is what he signed for, and Goodbranson signed for $4 million. That is stupid. That is absolutely terrible. The man is 30 years old. Is he bad? No, he's better than every single person that I know as a human being.
He's not
is better than all
$4 million defenseman.
No, he is absolutely not. When you look, he is making $750,000 less. That's it. Than Ben Sherratt. And Ben Sherratt's not that good of a defenseman.
I think Ben Sherratt is the way he played in Montreal, not the way that he played not the way that he played in Florida. I can see why Sherratt got what he got. He's being brought in for a very specific role, and there's not a lot of players that do that. But if I had the choice between Lyubushkin or Goodbranson, Lyubushkin's the one that deserves that bigger contract. So, that's just in one day. Lyubushkin or Goodbranson, Lyubushkin, 100 times out of 100. So there was a big W for Columbus.
Or Goodbranson.
Yeah, Pat doesn't think that Gaudreau's worth it, so we'll see what happens there. We've got 7 years to figure that one out. But the biggest L of the day was Columbus for 4 years, $4 million AAV for Goodbranson. I've never collectively seen hockey Twitter be like, "Oh my God, that was bad."
Well, and then they tweeted out more like good Branson, GOOD.
And everybody was like, no.
And the ratio that it got, it's going to be it'll be in the Twitter or Hockey Twitter Hall of Fame. That is something. That's the only way that Goodbranson's going to get in any kind of Hall of Fame is simply by being bad and being roasted online.
Oh, we missed another one. Sorry, by the way. Just thinking of it. Carolina also signed Andre Cachet to a 1-year, $1.5 million free agent deal, which was also what the Leafs offered him, but he did not want to be in Toronto anymore. So,
Which is odd. I thought he enjoyed playing with Comp, but I guess not.
Who knows? So maybe he just wanted to change his scenery. Who knows with that one? Before I remember anything else, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We did go longer than we wanted, but that's okay. As I said, my kids both fell asleep, so that's the good news there.
Good.
Enjoy your vacation, Pat.
Yeah, no, I'm my tickets came in and I'm really excited to say that I saw how much fun everyone was having in Montreal. And I'm also going to be heading to the draft. Hopefully everyone's still there. So looking forward to seeing all those reporters hanging out. Maybe I'll grab a beer with Mikey Stevens or whatever. No, yeah, I'm just going to be doing a road trip for 10 days. So going to be driving quite a bit and I'm really excited to not be at work. Yeah, I don't know.
Pat
That's
with
it.
the with
That's
the with the honesty on that one, eh? Not holding back.
like, who goes on vacation and says to themselves,
I
"Boy,
can't
I
wait to
wish
get back to work.
I'm so excited to get back to work." No, literally the most exciting moment of any vacation to me is the moment that I shut my laptop on the last day before the vacation.
No, I can do you one better. You set
The
the
first
out of
beer.
office.
Oh no, see, I set my out of office at the start of the week to give me hope. Um It's scheduled. It's ready.
Okay, fair enough.
No, but when you close that laptop for that, like the moment that you're done work and you're like, I'm on vacation, there's no better feeling. It's like when you're a kid and you lay out your clothes for the field trip the next day. It's that same like, oh, it's here. It's finally here.
Pat gets to
So
enjoy that. Meanwhile, I go on vacation and I'm still on call.
I mean, I do social media, so I'm always on call.
Yeah.
So
But
it is what
well,
it is.
enjoy that. So there's next week we probably won't have a podcast, which is fine. Or maybe if anything crazy happens, I'll hop on and do one. First
I
week
could
of
call in.
yeah, we'll see. First week of August, I will be in Ottawa for my sister-in-law's wedding, so probably won't have a podcast that week. So, I mean, I'm not expecting too many crazy things to happen over the summer. Plus, we'd be talking about not really hockey anyway, so
Yeah, we'd probably be talking about nerdy things. So maybe in August, or potentially even the week leading up, or the first week in August. So we might switch gears a little bit and go into other hobbies of ours, whether it be music or movies or TV or whatever it is. Just kind of dive into things and argue about why Brian's wrong about all of his takes and yeah, things like that.
I didn't know I was doing a podcast with my wife. Mind you, that is what Kylie calls you a lot, is my other wife, so it's like, oh, you must be messaging your other wife again. It's like 11 o'clock at night. You and I are messaging back and forth.
In bed, like looking at the phone. Yeah.
Pretty sure I said something like that too in my speech at your wedding.
Yeah, you did.
And I'm
I
pretty
forgot
sure
about
you
that.
said something
That's
about
funny.
that at my wedding the year prior. So,
Yep, you're not wrong.
yeah. Well,
All right.
no better place to leave it for tonight. So, we may see you next week. We may not. Thank you everybody for tuning in. One thing that I guess we can say now that we're on YouTube is if you like the video, hit the like button. Yay!
Absolutely.
You get notified if we've put a new episode up. This one's a weird one because it'll be up a day earlier than normal. So, and thanks to everybody who's been listening. It's fun to see the feedback that we get on some places, especially on Instagram and TikTok. So, a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's always a blast to record this. So even if we do go on a 2-ish week hiatus, we will be back. Don't you worry. We enjoy this too much, and I think yeah, we'll try and dive into more things like what's our favorite Marvel film and how we felt about the most recent ones and things like that. And as you can see, I'm wearing a Hufflepuff shirt if you're watching. So nerdy things, because we might be massive nerds and you just may not know. So keep that in mind as you can see the Amazing Spider-Man poster behind me, but that doesn't matter.
I was like, and you can see I'll
The endless void
purposely
behind
you
Brian.
can't see behind me in the basement.
Yes. But yeah, so thank you again for listening, everybody. It is amazing that you take time out of your day to listen to these two dudes talk about hockey and argue. That's fun. That's so cool.
And on that note, I'm gonna make the splash screen go up. We'll say goodbye.
I'm gonna
Talk to
eat
you
my burger
whenever we talk to you next. And please, New Jersey, get a high-scoring winger. We need one so badly. I mean, maybe
JT Miller.
It's not the dumbest thing you've said.
Right?